New York City Attorney General Letitia James may have just handed Donald Trump the White House. So the former president recently posted on Truth Social that he's come up with around $500 million. Money that he intended to use for his 2024 presidential run. Now, it's also more than enough money for him to be able to appeal this case in New York, where he called Attorney General James a corrupt AG. Some critics are saying that this is justified by her actions throughout the case, and many believe that this is a crime with no victim, as not a single bank or lending institution has come forward to complain or say that Trump never paid them back. But what's more, James also filed paperwork to possibly seize the properties of Trump in Westchester County. Observers pointed out that Letitia James filed this paperwork just a week after Judge Arthur Engoron's ruling of the case. She couldn't wait to get her little grubby hands on Donald Trump's properties. Some claim that she knew that the amount of money that she demanded was just way too high for anyone to come up with within the allotted period of the deadline, which means that the end game may have been for Attorney General Letitia James and Judge Arthur Engoron to seize Donald Trump's properties from the get-go. And it's worth noting that Donald Trump has his Seven Springs estate there, as well as the Trump National Golf Course, Westchester. Now, while this filing doesn't necessarily mean that she's actually going to be able to seize these assets right away, it's still considered the first step. Now, before I really peel back the curtain on what she's about to do next, all I ask is that you guys take 1 second, drop a quick like for the video. I totally appreciate you guys. And I want to thank you so much for sharing this video on Facebook and on Twitter. That is the best way you guys can support the channel. So I totally appreciate you guys. But this has a lot of analysts worried, and they're wondering if they ever intended for Trump to be able to pay the bond in the first place. At least one expert says that this could be the wrong move to make against the former president. So Frank Luntz, a consultant and GOP pollster, warned Letitia James during a CNN interview. He said that doing this would absolutely hand Donald Trump the keys to the White House. Now, his reasoning for this is that if she does this, the world will be able to see right through it. The entire country and all of America will see it. And this could create the greatest victimhood of 2024, and will have Trump elected by November. So, even though Donald Trump would lose out financially, he would still be triumphant politically. And that's exactly what his team wants. Critics of the Attorney General have called her out because it seems as if she's just been very biased with her actions from day one. Not to mention, she's been touting her win on social media and posting subtle jabs at Trump. Vivek Ramaswamy, a former GOP presidential candidate, he also took to social media to get Letitia James's attention. So Vivek Ramaswamy, he says that her actions, they won't give her the results that she's looking for. Instead, he predicts that independents would be influenced instead to support Trump. Ramaswamy adds that it's unfortunate that this is happening to Trump, but that its effect would in turn give him a more decisive electoral mandate this November. He also noted that Letitia James had a very explicit promise of going after one man. That was the origin of his prosecution, and that James chose to abuse a consumer protection law in order to charge a case where the counterparties weren't ordinary customers. Now, as you guys might remember, the supposed victims here, they were banks. Banks that did not lose money. In fact, they made a profit through dealings with Donald Trump.
In this case, you're talking about a crime for which there was literally no identifiable victim. The people who did business with Donald Trump weren't individual consumers. They were sophisticated financial institutions who made money from their dealings. And yet Letitia James is using a consumer protection statute to literally make up numbers and say, hey, you have hundreds of millions of dollars in penalties that you owe.
Ramaswamy also referenced the Eighth Amendment, saying that he believes that the judge violated it and that taking it to the Supreme Court would likely result in a 9-0 vote in favor of Donald Trump. Now, a lot of people might be asking, well, what exactly is this Eighth Amendment? Well, it pertains to excessive bail and how it shouldn't be required nor excessive fines imposed.
The Eighth Amendment prevents the imposition of excessive bail or excessive fines. And if there's ever an example that meets that to a T, it's the bond that's been demanded of Donald Trump in this disgusting New York Letitia James-led prosecution. This is an opportunity for the Supreme Court to step in and say, no, we're not going to stand for this kind of lawfare. Whether it's against Donald Trump or a Democrat, it's wrong.
Now, we all know Donald Trump's legal team went to almost 30 insurance companies to try and underwrite this bond of almost $500 million. We also know that none of these companies agreed to do this. This is because the amount is just out of this world. Abusing this kind of treatment would mean that no one would ever be able to appeal any court judgments moving forward. He also feels that James should be disbarred for all of her actions. Can you imagine seeing that? Can you imagine the celebration that Donald Trump would have if Attorney General Letitia James was disbarred? Now, Vivek Vivek Ramaswamy, he isn't pertaining to just Trump's case. He's saying that she's shown a pattern of behavior. Now, let me ask you guys, do you agree that Letitia James should be disbarred? Now, while there's no news of her getting disbarred, James has been rumored to be incredibly pissed off. Why? Because it's been announced that former President Donald Trump is expected to soon receive a whole lot of money to the tune of more than $3 billion. So Truth Social is set to become a publicly listed company, and it's merging with Digital World Acquisition Group, DWAC. Trump's stake would be around 58% of the company, which is again around $3 billion. Now, this alone would solve most, if not all, of Donald Trump's financial issues at the moment. It's also while we're getting reports from those who are close to Letitia James that she's livid that Trump may actually have a way to pay off the bond. Now, of course, there's a restriction in selling, and it's said that the former president can't sell any of his shares until after 6 months. Although the expectation is that he'd probably be granted an exception given his situation. From New York, let's go ahead and go on over to Georgia, where Judge Scott McAfee just opened up a new door for Trump and his co-defendants. Now, if you guys remember, Nathan Wade has resigned as special prosecutor as he's been proven that there's an inkling of conflict of interest here with DA Fani Willis. And now, even Fani Willis herself can possibly be removed from the case, as he just granted Trump's legal team the ability to obtain a certificate of immediate review. This motion was pushed by Steve the Pitbull Sadow. Sadow went on X to say that every so-called expert who thought that McAfee wouldn't allow this was wrong. This now permits Trump's team to appeal the ruling up to the Georgia Court of Appeals. So in this order, McAfee stated that this is such an importance to the case that an immediate review should be had. Sadow said that he's expecting this appellate review to lead to the case being dismissed and for the DA Fani Willis to be disqualified. Let's now move on to the quick update of the viral border stampede that happened just recently. Many say that this was a product of the Biden administration's policies and how he removed the policies that were enacted by the Trump administration. However, this is not how everyone else is seeing the situation, because even though this happened under the leadership of President Biden, others still try and pin the blame on Donald Trump. So MSNBC anchor Joe Scarborough, he went on air to say that this rush of illegal immigrants in El Paso, Texas, it can be blamed 100% on the former President Donald Trump. He said that he and the Republican Party are at fault for what's happening at the border. The crisis, according to him, was created by Donald Trump. Do you guys believe this?
Look at what the Republicans are doing to you. Look what Donald Trump's doing to you. Because see this onslaught headline? The only thing the Post didn't tell you is Donald Trump said, blame me for this. Donald Trump said, kill the bill and blame me for everything that happens after this point. Donald Trump said, blame me. So yes, Donald, we are blaming you. We're blaming Mini-Me Mike Johnson for following your orders. We're blaming Republicans who begged for a tough border bill, but like the Wall Street Journal editorial page said, couldn't take yes for an answer. So yes, there is an onslaught in the southern border still. And it's all Donald Trump's fault.
Many analysts find it very hard to believe that Scarborough even said this, given that the president has the authority to close the border as we speak, yet he has done absolutely nothing but sit on his hands. He's talked about how we can enact an executive action but has chosen not to. But what do you guys think? Is there any one person that we can blame for the problems at the border? And if so, who would you blame? Is it Joe Biden's fault or is it President Trump's fault? And as far as I know, I'm going to continue to bring you guys the facts and keep you guys informed every single day. I want to thank y'all for hitting the like button for the video. Thank you for sharing this video on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll catch y'all on the next one.